Welcome to the Entrepreneur Mind podcast, where transform your mindset from consuming to producing. I'm your host, Zen Flint.
Welcome to Entrepreneur Mind podcast. This is Zen Flint. Today we have a very special guest joining us from San Francisco. He is a Danish entrepreneur currently focused on reinventing entrepreneurship education. During his engineering studies, he founded 2 companies and was strategy consultant for several international corporations. Now he focuses on startup experience, where he runs innovation workshops for business professionals and teaches entrepreneurship to students around the world. Henrik, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So, what does entrepreneurship means to you, and how would you define it?
Entrepreneurship to me is a lifestyle. I like to look at entrepreneurs as the type of people who go through life in a way where they don't just accept the way things are. I think of entrepreneurs as the heroes of modern society and really the people who dare to stand up against the crowd and challenge the status quo, constantly looking for ways to improve their own life and also creating impact for other people. So it's really like a general mindset and an approach to life where you are proactive about creating opportunities for yourself and improving things around you all the time.
Great. You founded 2 companies while you were in Denmark. Can you share with us what type of businesses were they?
I can, yeah. My very first company was first semester as an undergrad student. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so together with a classmate of mine, actually, we founded a company around reusing IT equipment from large companies and from government agencies. They tend to use a lot of IT equipment, and instead of recycling those computers, they just end up in the trash. And we thought that was a horrible waste of resources. So we created like a deletion software that we could guarantee a complete formatting of the hard drives. And then we could kind of come and collect all that IT equipment from the companies or from these government agencies, and then send it to third world countries where they could make good use of this IT equipment that was perfectly functional. Unfortunately, it turns out that my co-founder at the time was not a great guy. So we ended up splitting up very quickly. It actually ended up with a lawsuit, and I learned a lot from that experience. So it took me another year to kind of get past that experience, and then I founded my next company. I was a little more, careful when selecting my co-founders for that startup. And that startup is still running back in Denmark. I kind of exited it about 2 years ago when I moved to San Francisco from Denmark. But it's still up and running, and it's kind of focused on ideation, design thinking, innovation, and helping large multinational companies on how they can improve their innovation process. So it was a great way to kind of go through college instead of working in a supermarket or some other job. We kind of just went out there and tried to make a living out of building our own company.
Great. So where do you get the ideas or the inspirations to start a new business?
To start a new business? Oh, there are many ways to come up with new ideas. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are really good at spotting new patterns and recognizing opportunities in the market. An important skill for any entrepreneur and an important habit for any entrepreneur is to constantly look out for new interesting trends in the market, new technology breakthroughs, new policy regulations that open up these opportunities. And then you have this epiphany moment where it suddenly strikes you that you can combine this new technology with this new customer need, and that can eventually become a startup company. But it's really like looking out for new opportunities all the time, and having that mindset where you look at a problem as an opportunity. And you think that, well, if this is a problem, not just to me, but to a lot of other people, then I can try to come up with a solution and eventually sell that solution to people that have this particular problem. So I try to all the time, like when you when you walk down the street, when you're sitting with friends one evening, if you're kind of out meeting people, always try to look out for things that could be improved, and discuss these ideas with your friends. Then something else comes out of it. You can sit and you can have your own perception of the world, but by sharing those initial thoughts and discussing that with people with complementary skill sets who have a different perception of the world, you can very quickly iterate and very quickly develop those ideas into something that could be interesting. So I guess that's sort of how I try to come up with new ideas, to always look out for interesting problems and then iterating quickly to try to evaluate that particular opportunity. Running it by my friends very early on is a good way to get initial validation of an idea.
So how you do you have a feeling inside of you or instinct that this idea is going to work or not? Like usually if you will ask your friends or families, they will usually give you the negative stuff. They will try to discourage you because most people, they don't know, they're afraid to do themselves, and then they try to discourage the new ideas. So how you know if it's a good idea or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's a very, very important question for all inventors and all entrepreneurs. Like, how can you validate or invalidate an opportunity, right, and a need? And initially, when you come up with an idea, you're super excited about it, and you're confident that this can become a billion-dollar company. And then you go out and talk to a few friends about it, and they might think that your idea sucks. So you can either take that into account and completely throw it away, or you can persevere, you can be persistent and try to build it. And that's one of the main pillars of this startup experience program that I'm now running in many places around the world, where we work with young people and try to inspire them to become more entrepreneurial, and also train them in some of these crucial aspects of how you build a company. And in that kind of early stage of the company, how you can make sure to evaluate all those different opportunities, and figure out whether you should pivot, whether you should change your idea, or you should persevere and you should continue going down the path that you're on. And one of the crucial things to do early on when you have an idea is to figure out what the customer, what the user thinks about this idea. And there's only one way you can figure that out, and that is by going out and talking to people about it. A lot of entrepreneurs tend to be afraid of talking to people about their ideas, so they end up spending 6 months or a year in the basement building some product that they believe to be valuable, but then when they finally come out of their office and present it to the world, they figure out that nobody else cares about it. So one of the crucial things for all entrepreneurs is to very early on build a minimum viable product, build a simple version of the product that you have in mind, and then going out and talking to customers and figuring out if they actually care about it. So there's only one way to really evaluate an opportunity, and that is to talk to potential customers about it and figure out if they're willing to pay money for it. It's kind of what the whole lean startup, the whole business model generation framework, what Steve Blank is talking about, like how you can build, measure, and learn very, very quickly. So instead of wasting a lot of time building a product that nobody wants, you figure it out early on and avoid wasting a lot of resources, wasting a lot of time on building useless products.
So, do you experience a fear or fear to fail, and how you overcome that?
I'm personally not super afraid to fail. I think I've come to understand that the road to success is paved by stones of failure. You need to make a lot of mistakes before you come up with something that is really brilliant. And that's one of the main aspects of ideation, of idea generation, that you need to at least start out with a very optimistic, with a very positive attitude when trying to come up with new ideas. I do, however, come across that kind of fear of failure quite a lot. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with young people, work with entrepreneurs in quite a few different countries. So here in the United States, in Denmark and Ireland, but also in the Middle East, in Tunisia, in Turkey, in Jordan, and also in India, Malaysia, and some of those places. There's a very different culture. I think even here in the U.S. or in Europe, people are afraid to fail, but even more so in Southeast Asia or in Africa, where you are kind of brought up in a way where you're not supposed to fail. And if you make a mistake, if you fail with your company, then you are a failure personally. And you will never be able to start over. And that perception is very, very dangerous. If people are afraid to fail, they will never come up with something that is truly innovative. So that's one of the main things that we try to break down. We try to change that culture in many of these entrepreneurial communities. And when you're working with young people, I kind of force them to fail. We have a lot of different exercises where you will make mistakes and you will celebrate those mistakes, and thereby kind of try to change your mentality around allowing yourself to come up with something with stupid ideas every now and again, because those are the types of ideas that can really lead to something brilliant.
Great. So basically, you gotta make a mistake, you gotta fail, and you have to learn that lesson. Otherwise, it's bound to repeat, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So I guess it will bring to your startup experience, and the way I found you, it was through the TED Talk presentation, which is, by the way, one of the greatest presentations about entrepreneurship, and I will leave the links on the show notes, so everyone who is listening, who wants to check out his TED Talk presentation, is going to be on the show notes. And can you go over your startup experience principles? Which
Absolutely,
I find very fascinating.
Thank you very much for your positive remarks. The Startup Experience program is designed by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. We're trying to take some of the best practices from Silicon Valley and from other successful entrepreneurs around the world, and we've condensed that into this 2-day workshop program where we take students through the entire journey of an entrepreneur. So we start out looking at a problem, typically a big social problem, and then we try to come up with ideas for innovative solutions that could become startup companies. So students will work as a team, 4 to 6 students per team, and go through that process where we start out looking at the problem and looking at the customer need, really identifying those opportunities, doing customer development to make sure we've got a good understanding of the problem before we start coming up with solutions. That's very crucial. First, you need to look at the problem, look at the need, look at the pain point before you start coming up with solutions. When we believe we have a good understanding of the problem, we move into a tech screening stage where we look at different interesting technology trends that could be used to solve this problem. And then we go into an ideation process, this creative stage where you try to come up with as many ideas as possible. We focus on design thinking and how you can work together as a creative team to come up with hundreds of ideas, and then selecting the best few ideas. You end up with one concept where we then talk about business model innovation and how we can build a sustainable business around taking this idea to market. Finally, we focus on prototyping, on pitching technique, and the students will end up presenting their idea to a professional jury by the end of day 2. So as you can imagine, it's a very intense process where the participants get exposure to all the different aspects of starting a business, or at least the first kind of several stages of what you need to do when you want to build your first company. And we're trying to not just focus on making all the participants start their own businesses, but first and foremost to inspire young people to adopt this entrepreneurial approach to life. Because in today's world, we really all have to be entrepreneurial. We need to create opportunities for ourselves and to be proactive about making a good life and kind of making the best out of it. A lot of young people and a lot of people in general tend to just sit back and wait for some opportunities to come out of nowhere. But life doesn't really work that way. You need to be proactive about finding those opportunities and then making the best out of it. So that's what we try to teach and try to inspire young people to do even more.
So how do you stay proactive? So you kind of go and look for the problems, you look for the social problems, and what you do in order to stay proactive?
You kind of need to have a personal sense of urgency. You need to feel like you can do better, and that there's more to this life than just living a boring normal life with a corporate job that you don't really care about, with colleagues that are not interesting. I mean, having the feeling that you deserve to do something great, to achieve amazing things in this life, and then being proactive about pursuing that path and setting like really hard goals and then trying to reach them. It's not like you can never celebrate your successes and you can never be happy with what you've got, but kind of daring to dream a little bigger. And that's also one of the things I talk about in my TED Talk, that you need to allow yourself to dream big instead of just always being content and happy with what you've got. So set some harder goals and then work hard to get there. I think that's one of the crucial parts.
Great. What you do to stay focused? I'm pretty sure you need to have a laser sharp focus in order to accomplish things. So do you have any techniques how to stay focused?
Oh, I think that's a tough one. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question. It's difficult. I tend to be sometimes working on too many projects at a time. But as an entrepreneur, you sometimes really need to focus. So that's one of the things I learn. I'm working on myself personally. I do meditation. I focus on doing sports as well to kind of narrow my scope into focusing on the most important things. And that's really it's a very important lesson to learn as a startup team, because you cannot build all the nice features. You can only focus on the core functionality of your product. And if you look at yourself as a startup company, it kind of is the same thing. You cannot have 100 best friends. You cannot, try to be good at all the different types of sports and start 5 companies at the same time. You kind of need to figure out what is it that I really want in my life, and then becoming disciplined around focusing on that goal.
So basically, don't be multitasking. Try to focus on one thing, right?
Well, at least when you found the product you want to build, when you found the thing you really want to focus on in your life, then dedicate the vast majority of your time to pursue that one goal. I think when you haven't really found that idea yet, it's good to be exploratory. It's good to go out, meet a ton of different people, just get as much inspiration as possible, talk to many different people from different backgrounds and so on to get inspired. But as soon as you've kind of narrowed in and found your goal, then it's important to focus most of your time on pursuing that path instead of working on all kinds of different ones at a time.
So Henrik, if you
Yes.
just hypothetically speaking, if you had no money, no connection, no education, what would you do to survive?
To survive, what's the context? Am I in Africa? Am I in Europe? Am I in a rural or an urban environment?
Let's say you are in States, United States.
I'm in the United States.
Yes.
Well, I'll go out and start building my network. Network is everything. It's such a cliche, but it really is. And the more people you know, the more opportunities you will come across. And pretty much everywhere in the world, there are a lot of meetup groups where you can try to find like-minded people. And when you then find people who are also looking for opportunities, they will be willing to introduce you to other people. And that's one of the fantastic things about Silicon Valley and the culture, and why we have such a unique ecosystem in this place, is because people are willing to share their connection. They're willing to open up their network to spend time with you. They don't just look at what's in it for me, but they're actually genuinely interested in helping other people. And you can find those kinds of people all over the world. So going out, meeting people, explaining who you are and what you're looking to do, then all of a sudden doors will open up and opportunities will reveal themselves. At least that's what I believe.
Okay. So then next one, just another example. In this case, you have $100,000 and you only way you can spend it is to invest or start a business. How would you distribute it?
I would start a business. I think it's more fun to be 100% submersed into a project than investing in other projects and kind of standing on the sideline, looking at all the action. But I think that's the stage I'm at right now in my career. Eventually, if I get more money to invest, I would probably also start doing that, because I think it's a great way to give back to the community. And I spend a lot of time mentoring startups as well. But I think right now I'm more focused on being part of the game.
So when you help out or mentor all this, you see for a lot of startups companies, what's the main mistake they all do, or so obvious that you kind of pointing out all the time?
It's waiting too long to talk to real customers. So a lot of these companies are building things and building very advanced products before having validated their customer need. Building that MVP, the minimum viable product, early on, and then shipping that to the customers is very crucial. Because fail faster, fail cheaper. It's really a good mantra. Because making those mistakes early on and going out talking to people and realizing that your product sucks early on doesn't cost a lot of money. But if you build a very advanced version of that product, you will have wasted your time. So I think that's one of the main aspects. As soon as you dare to overcome your personal fear and go out and talk to people about your ideas, you will realize that you need to tweak and change them quite a bit before they're ready for the market.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people, they start a company, first thing they do is just get furniture, computer, office space, rent, all that, before they even talk to the customer if their product sells or service is demanded or not.
Oftentimes you can sell the product before you build it, and that's a good way to validate. I'm a big fan of these crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and whatever else is out there, where you can really kind of present what you're trying to build or what you want to build, and then listen. If people want to support you, it's probably because there is a potential for a company. If not, then maybe you have to change. So yeah, talk to people instead of just start building stuff. I think that's a good point.
So Henrik, do you have any great entrepreneurial book that you could recommend to the listeners?
I think there are a lot of good books. I'll definitely supply you with a couple of links. I like the Lean Startup is a good framework. It's not Steve Blank also recently published a new book, the Startup Owner's Manual. I think his books tends to be a little text heavy, but he also has a free to use course on Udacity on customer development, where he go through all the 9 building blocks of the business model canvas. And that has been very useful for a lot of the people I've worked with. So check out Steve Blank's course on Udacity. Lean Startup, Startup Owner's Manual, Business Model Generation by Alexander Osterwalder. I am a big fan of Tony Hsieh and Delivering Happiness, about the Zappos story. And then The Startup of You by Reid Hoffman and Ben Kashnoka, where they talk about how you can apply some of this startup methodology to your own life and to your own career. So I think, that's it for now, at least.
Yeah, that's more than enough, I think.
Great.
So, Henrik, before we wrap this up, can you give us action, one or few, to take for us who wants to become an entrepreneur, so they can take one single action or few to bring them closer to reach their goals or take them farther?
Yeah. I think the most important thing to do is to get off the couch and start working on your projects. And there are so many want-to-be entrepreneurs out there who goes to networking events, who talks about their what they want to do, but very few actually start working on these ideas. And that's really what you need to do. You need to get off the couch and start building that first product, or start formalizing a business model, and then going out to validate that, talk to potential customers, maybe get a couple of buddies to help you build the first version of the product and work on the idea. But that's really the first step, and not a lot of people take that step, and that's extremely sad. So getting off the couch first and foremost, and just start working on your idea, and just go out, tell yourself, I need to talk to at least 20 people about this idea. Every time you talk to a new person, you will get new input. You will be able to refine your pitch and change it a little bit. If you have a prototype, you can tweak it a little bit, and then next time you pitch it to another person, you might get some different feedback. And eventually you will start hearing the same things, and you will start hearing from people that they actually do want whatever you're trying to build. And then you can maybe start making a more advanced prototype, and then doing more customer development, and so on and so forth. I think that would be my approach, if that makes sense.
Yep, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. So, Henry, if the listeners would like to find out more about you and your startup experience, where they can find you?
I'm on LinkedIn under Henrik Scheel, and you can also go to startupexperience.com, where you can see a few videos from previous workshops. You can read testimonials, and you can get in touch with me. I'm pretty easy to find on my website. So please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to tell you more about the startup experience, or help you with your startup.
It was such a great interview, and thank you very much for your time. It was great.
Thank you very much.